The warm scent of chocolate chip cookies filled the grand Atlanta kitchen, a comforting aroma soon to be overpowered by the cold chill of expensive perfume. Little Chloe Blackwell stood on a step stool, her tiny hands covered in flour, a smudge of it dusting her nose. "More chips, sass," she giggled, her voice echoing off the high coffered ceilings. "More chips it is, sweet girl," Sarah Jenkins replied, her voice a low, warm hum that matched the kitchen's atmosphere. Sarah, dressed in her practical navy uniform, gently guided Chloe's hand. For 3 years, ever since Chloe's mother had passed, this kitchen had been their sanctuary. It was Sarah who taught her to bake, Sarah who read her stories, and Sarah who held her when she had nightmares. Outside, the October sun lit up the carefully arranged gourds and orange mums on the windowsill, but inside, the warmth came entirely from the oven and the bond between the two of them. The sound of the back door opening made Chloe squeal. "Daddy!" Arthur Blackwell entered, his business suit looking stiff and out of place in the cozy scene. "There's my baker," he smiled, but his eyes were focused on the woman beside him. "Chloe, Sarah, I want you to meet someone very special. This is Eleanor." Eleanor was stunning, wrapped in a silk sheath dress that probably cost more than Sarah's monthly salary. Her smile was perfect, dazzling, and utterly cold. "Hello, little one," she said, her voice smooth as glass. She crouched, not too low, and enveloped Chloe in a hug. It was less an embrace and more acclaiming. Chloe, smelling the sharp, unfamiliar perfume, went stiff, her hands frozen midair, before she instinctively leaned back toward the safety of Sarah's apron. "Eleanor is going to be living with us," Arthur continued, oblivious. "She's going to be my wife." He turned to the counter to answer a buzzing phone, his back to the room. In that instant, Eleanor's flawless smile vanished. She straightened up, her gaze shifting to Sarah. She looked her up and down, a slow, dismissive assessment. It was a look Sarah, a black woman in the South, had seen 1,000 times, a look that dismissed, diminished, and defined her by her uniform. It was pure, icy disdain. Later that evening, after Arthur had settled in his study, he called out, "Sarah, could you bring us some coffee, please?" Sarah prepared the tray, her hands steady, her spine straight. But as she exited the kitchen, Eleanor was waiting in the hallway, blocking her path. The expensive perfume was cloying. "Just so we're clear," Eleanor's voice was a soft whisper, almost polite, but laced with steel. "I'll be Mrs. Blackwell soon. I don't appreciate the help getting confused about their place." Eleanor's chilling warning marks a dark turning point. The battle lines have been drawn in the Blackwell home, and we can already see the deep-seated prejudice Sarah is up against. If you are still watching and feel the weight of that unjust moment, please comment with the word truth below to let us know you are on this journey with Sarah. Telling powerful stories like this is the heart of the Black King channel. And if you aren't subscribed yet, we highly recommend you subscribe and turn on the bell so you don't miss a single moment of her fight. Your support helps us continue to create great content to inform and inspire you. Now, let's continue. "I'll only be in Houston for 10 days tops," Arthur Blackwell announced, folding his morning newspaper, oblivious to the sudden tension in the room. Sarah, pouring coffee, felt a knot of dread tighten in her stomach. She vividly recalled Eleanor's chilling words from the hallway, confused about their place. 10 days alone with that woman felt like an eternity. The formal breakfast nook was stiff and silent, a stark contrast to the warm kitchen of yesterday. The Wall Street Journal sat by Arthur's plate. Eleanor, however, played her part perfectly, placing a manicured hand on Arthur's arm. "We'll miss you terribly, darling, but don't you worry about a thing," she said, her voice dripping with manufactured concern. "In fact, this is the perfect chance for me to learn the household ropes. I want to help you." Arthur beamed, delighted. "That's my girl. Sarah will show you everything." And so Eleanor shadowed Sarah, a silent, judgmental presence. She followed her through the pantry, the laundry, and upstairs to the master wing. As Sarah tidied Arthur's bathroom, Eleanor paused by the medicine cabinet. "What's this for?" she asked, pointing to a small amber bottle. "His heart medication, ma'am." "He takes one every night," Sarah replied, keeping her voice neutral. Eleanor picked up the bottle, not like someone concerned, but like someone studying an artifact. She read the label intently. And you keep track of these? Yes, ma'am. I set it out for him every evening. How diligent, Eleanor murmured, placing it back. As they passed the linen closet, they met Mrs. Ellis, the elderly housekeeper, bustling with fresh towels. Mrs. Ellis, who had worked for the Blackwells for 20 years, offered Sarah a warm, knowing nod. She was part of the old staff, the real heart of the house. Eleanor, however, barely glanced at her, dismissing her as part of the furniture. Later that afternoon, Arthur left for the airport. Sarah and Chloe stood at the grand foyer window, watching the car disappear down the long, oak-lined driveway. The moment the gates clicked shut, Eleanor's entire demeanor shifted. The supportive smile evaporated, her posture hardening. She turned from the window to face Sarah and Mrs. Ellis, who was polishing a nearby silver tray. "Well," Eleanor said, running a finger along a dusty picture frame, a subtle jab at Mrs. Ellis. "Now that Arthur's gone, we're going to make some real changes. This house feels dreadfully cluttered." "You're clumsy." Eleanor's sharp voice cut through the afternoon quiet, followed by Chloe's sudden, sharp cry of pain. Sarah, folding laundry down the hall, dropped a towel and ran toward the formal living room. She arrived to see Chloe on the floor, nursing her arm, tears welling in her eyes. A dark splash of juice stained the edge of the antique Persian rug. Eleanor stood over her, her face a mask of cold fury. "Stupid girl," she hissed, grabbing Chloe's arm and digging her nails in. In the doorway, Mrs. Ellis, the elderly cleaner, froze, her feather duster poised in midair. She saw the aggressive grip, the red marks forming on Chloe's small arm, and the undisguised cruelty in Eleanor's eyes. Eleanor spotted her. Their eyes locked. Eleanor's gaze was pure ice, a silent, vicious warning. Terrified, Mrs. Ellis looked down, turned, and scurried away down the hall. The next morning, Eleanor orchestrated a new drama. "My bracelet," she announced, her voice laced with theatrical panic. "My diamond bracelet is gone." She refused to listen to Sarah's calm denials and insisted on searching Sarah's room first. While Sarah watched in disbelief, Eleanor moved to the small purse Sarah used on her days off. Reaching inside, she triumphantly pulled out the glittering bracelet. I've never," Sarah stammered, her blood running cold. "I've never stolen a thing in my life." "That's what they all say," Eleanor sighed. Later that day, she called Mrs. Ellis into the study. "Given the untrustworthiness I've discovered," Eleanor said coolly, "I'm cutting staff." She fired Mrs. Ellis, the only person who had witnessed her abuse. Mrs. Ellis, clutching her purse, left the estate, deliberately avoiding Sarah's eyes, her silence bought by fear. That night, Sarah couldn't sleep. The house felt wrong, suffocating. As she passed Eleanor's study, she heard the new mistress's voice, low and urgent, on the phone. "Everything's fine," Eleanor whispered. "The old woman is gone. Yes, the medication is handled. He'll be home soon, and I'll take care of it permanently." Sarah stumbled back to her room, her hand pressed over her mouth, her heart pounding. Take care of it permanently? She realized with dawning horror. Eleanor isn't just trying to frame her for theft, she's planning to kill Arthur. The net is closing around Sarah. She's been framed for theft. The only witness, Mrs. Ellis, has been fired, and Sarah just overheard Eleanor's plan to kill Arthur. The tension is unbearable. If you are still watching this video and find this story gripping, please comment with the number 8 below to let me know you made it here. And if you haven't subscribed to Black King yet, I highly recommend you subscribe and turn on the bell so you don't miss any videos. Your support helps us continue to create great content to inform and inspire you. Now let's continue. Arthur Blackwell walked in the front door 2 days before Thanksgiving, surprising everyone. But the exhaustion etched on his face was a far cry from holiday cheer. Sarah's heart leaped into her throat. Her mind flashed instantly to Eleanor's chilling whisper over the phone, "He'll be home soon, and I'll take care of it permanently." The house smelled warmly of cinnamon and nutmeg. Sarah had spent the morning preparing a pumpkin pie for the holiday, trying to maintain some normalcy for Chloe. Now, that warmth felt like a sickening prelude. "Daddy!" Chloe ran and hugged his legs. "There's my girl." Arthur managed a weak smile, rubbing his chest as he bent down. Sorry I'm early, just couldn't stomach another hotel room. Glad to be home. Eleanor swept in, the picture of wifely concern. Darling, you look dreadful. You must rest. It's just heartburn from the flight, Arthur murmured, letting her guide him to the living room sofa. Sarah, the house smells wonderful. I'll get your heart medication, darling, Eleanor cooed, already moving toward the master bathroom. Sarah watched, frozen, as Eleanor returned, her hand steady, holding the small pill and a glass of water. Arthur swallowed it gratefully. Minutes later it happened. Arthur gasped, his eyes wide with a sudden, terrible understanding. He clutched his chest and slid from the sofa to the floor. Eleanor, help me, he choked out. Sarah screamed and ran to him, dropping to her knees. Arthur! Arthur! But as she looked up, she saw Eleanor. She was standing frozen at the top of the stairs, perfectly silhouetted against the hall light. She wasn't panicking. She wasn't moving. She was just watching him die. Call 911. Sarah shrieked, fumbling for her own phone in her apron pocket. Eleanor, startled into action, grabbed her own phone, her fingers tapping the screen uselessly. I can't. I don't know the number, she cried, a pathetic, fake performance. Sarah was already screaming their address to the dispatcher. By the time the paramedics arrived, it was too late. Arthur was gone. As they covered his body, the police arrived, and Eleanor's performance began. She collapsed against the first detective, weeping hysterically, though Sarah saw her eyes were perfectly dry. It was her, she whispered, her voice breaking as she pointed a shaking finger at Sarah. She was acting so strange all day. She handles all his medication. Oh God, I think she poisoned him. The detective's eyes narrowed, shifting from the aristocratic white widow to the terrified, hysterical black housekeeper. The accusation, steeped in racial bias, hung in the air, damningly plausible. The smell of cinnamon and pumpkin pie from the night before was gone, replaced by the sterile metallic scent of a police investigation. The half-prepared Thanksgiving decorations lining the mantelpiece looked grotesque and mocking in the cold, gray morning light. Sarah sat numbly at the kitchen table, a detective named Harris asking her the same questions over and over. She answered in a monotone, her mind replaying Arthur's final, gasping breaths. Eleanor, dressed in elegant black, drifted into the room, a picture of fragile grief. She reluctantly spoke to Detective Harris, her voice just loud enough for Sarah to hear. I don't want to believe it, Detective, but Sarah, she's been so stressed. She paused, as if debating whether to continue. I found out she was fired from a previous job for theft. I think she was stealing Arthur's medication. That was all Harris needed. Ma'am, we'll need to search your room. Procedure. Based on Eleanor's poisonous suggestion, Harris led the search. It didn't take long. Tucked neatly beneath Sarah's thin mattress, he pulled out a small, empty amber bottle. It matched Arthur's prescription exactly. Sarah leaped to her feet, the numbness shattering into raw horror. That's not mine. I've never seen that. She put it there. She must have. Detective Harris sighed, his face hardening. The story was simple, familiar. Ma'am, I have to take you in. The sound of handcuffs clicking echoed in the kitchen. As they led her through the foyer, Chloe, having heard the commotion, ran from her room, her face streaked with tears. No, she screamed, launching herself at Sarah's legs. Don't take her. Sarah didn't do it. Mommy Eleanor did it. I saw her. She just watched. Before the detectives could react, Eleanor swept in, scooping Chloe up into a suffocating embrace. She's hysterical, Detective. She doesn't know what she's saying, Eleanor cooed, her voice breaking convincingly. Poor thing, she's in shock. She's confused. Harris nodded, his expression softening as he accepted the plausible explanation over the child's frantic screams. Sarah was led away in the police car. As it pulled away, she looked back at the house. Through the rain-streaked window, she could see Chloe pounding on the glass, her small face crumpled in terror, her cries muffled by the glass, held back by the killer. The grand front door closed, shutting her in. The prosecution rests, Your Honor. The words echoed in the silent, imposing Atlanta courtroom, sealing Sarah Jenkins' fate. For 3 months, Sarah had sat in this room, thin and defeated in a beige prison uniform, listening to a story being woven against her. Eleanor, the perfect picture of a grieving widow in elegant black, pearls at her neck, had captivated the jury with her tears and her poise. The planted pill bottle, the stolen bracelet, the previous theft, it was a flawless narrative. Sarah's attorney, Mr. Monroe, had done his best, but the evidence was overwhelming. The defense. Mr. Monroe began, his voice heavy, but he was interrupted. Suddenly, the grand courtroom doors burst open with a crash, echoing the sound from the transcript. A small, frantic figure stood silhouetted against the hallway light, Chloe. She was barefoot, her dress streaked with mud, her hair matted from running. "Sarah didn't do it," she screamed, her voice piercing the legal silence. Chaos erupted. Reporters scrambled, the jury gasped, and the judge slammed his gavel. Before the bailiffs could intercept her, Chloe ran past them, dodging outstretched hands, and clung to Sarah at the defense table. She pointed a trembling, muddy finger directly at Eleanor. "It was her. It was my stepmother. She killed my father, not the maid." Eleanor laughed, a sharp, ugly sound. "The child is distraught. This is absurd. She's been confused for months." "Your Honor," Mr. Monroe shouted over the noise. "The defense calls a final rebuttal witness, Mrs. Ellen Ellis." A gasp went through the room. Mrs. Ellis, the timid, elderly cleaner Eleanor had fired, walked nervously but resolutely to the stand. Terrified but brave, she testified under oath. She told the jury she had personally seen Eleanor grab Chloe violently by the arm, and that Eleanor had fired her immediately after Sarah was conveniently framed for the bracelet. The two testimonies, the child's raw truth and the old woman's corroboration, shattered Eleanor's credibility. Her mask of grief cracked. "You lying old hag," she shrieked, rising from her seat, her face contorted in rage. "You're all lying." She lunged forward before a bailiff restrained her. The courtroom saw the truth. The elegant widow was a monster. Sarah, crying silent tears of relief, pulled Chloe onto her lap, holding her tightly as the gavel fell. "It's over, baby," Sarah whispered, her voice thick. "You're safe now." In the end, the silence of the courtroom, finally broken by a child's courageous truth, settled into a quiet peace for Sarah and Chloe. Their story reminds us that true character is not defined by wealth or status, but by the unconditional kindness we show when no one is watching. When we choose to look past the judgments of the world, we often find the truth in the most unexpected voices. Like a steady flame in a dark window, compassion always finds a way to light the path home. If this story touched your heart, perhaps consider sharing that warmth with someone in your own community.